She was already diving before the fox even heard her coming. 500 feet above a frozen Alaskan snowfield, a bald eagle named Kodiak by the wildlife researchers who had been tracking her for 3 seasons suddenly folded her wings and dropped. Not glided, not descended, dropped, the way a stone drops, the way lightning drops, with no hesitation and no second thought. Below her, a white Arctic fox was trotting across the open snow with something small and dark dangling from its jaws, something that was still moving, something that was hers. Kodiak's eaglet had fallen from the nest that morning. The chick, barely 22 days old, still wearing the gray-white down of infancy, wings not yet strong enough to break a fall, had leaned too far into the wind and tumbled off the rocky ledge where the nest sat anchored above the valley. It had landed in the open snow below with a soft thud, dazed and exposed and utterly alone. In the brutal arithmetic of the Arctic, that is all it takes. One gust, one moment of imbalance, and everything becomes a matter of who gets there first. The fox got there first. Arctic foxes are built for exactly this kind of opportunity. Their hearing is so precise they can pinpoint a lemming moving beneath 2 feet of compacted snow. Their white winter coat makes them nearly invisible against the terrain they hunt, and their patience is legendary. They will wait, motionless, watching a situation develop for as long as it takes. This particular fox had been tracking the base of the cliff all morning, nose working the cold air, ears rotating like satellites. When the chick fell, the fox was already moving before the eaglet hit the ground. By the time Kodiak realized what had happened, the fox was 40 meters away and accelerating. Here is something that most people never know about bald eagles. They have 2 foveas in each eye, 2 zones of acute, high-definition vision, while humans have only 1. This means a bald eagle can simultaneously track a target directly in front of it and monitor wide peripheral movement at the same time, in extraordinary detail, from distances that would render the same scene invisible to human eyes. From 500 feet in the air, Kodiak could see the exact grip of the fox's jaws on her chick. She could see the chick's legs still kicking. She could see the track the fox was leaving in the snow, the direction it was heading, the distance to the tree line. She could see everything. And she came down like the sky itself had decided enough was enough. The wind she generated in the final 50 feet of her dive was enough to scatter loose snow across the surface of the field. The fox heard it, a rushing, tearing sound that its instincts recognized as immediate danger, and it spun to look. What it saw was 7.5 feet of wingspan, talons fully extended, coming straight at its face at over 90 miles per hour. The fox made the only rational decision available to it. It dropped the chick, tucked, and ran. Kodiak pulled out of the dive with 3 feet to spare, banked hard, and landed directly over her chick in a single fluid motion. She spread her wings wide, not to fly, but to build a wall, a feathered, furious, absolute wall between her chick and the rest of the world. The eaglet pressed against the warmth of her chest, trembling. She curved her body around it like a shield and stood perfectly still. That was when the lynx stepped out of the shadow of the tree line. It had been there the whole time, crouched behind a snowdrift, watching. Lynxes are opportunistic hunters and extraordinarily patient ones. They let other animals exhaust their energy, create the chaos, do the dangerous work, and then they move in quietly to collect what remains. This one had watched the fox steal the chick, had watched the eagles dive, had waded through all of it, calculating, and now it was moving slowly across the open snow toward the eagle and her grounded eaglet, closing the distance in absolute silence. Kodiak turned her head and looked directly at it. What happened next is the kind of thing that wildlife researchers spend careers trying to describe accurately and still struggle to capture. The eagle did not flee. She did not attempt to fly.
She was on the ground, her chick was not yet able to grip her properly, and flight was not the option. Instead, she opened her beak and she screamed. Not the soft, keening cry people associate with eagles from film soundtracks, the real sound, raw and enormous and electric, the kind of call that bounces off mountain faces and rolls down frozen valleys and communicates in a frequency that crosses every species boundary one single message: I am not afraid of you. Come and find out what happens if you take another step. The lynx stopped walking. It stood in the snow for a long moment, close enough that researchers watching from the ridge could see its ears flatten. It looked at the eagle, it looked at the chick, it did the calculation one more time, slowly, and the answer came back the same way it had the first time. It turned around and walked back into the trees without looking back. Kodiak stood over her chick for another 30 minutes before the eaglet was calm enough and steady enough for her to begin the slow, careful process of getting it back up the cliff face to the nest. It took nearly an hour. Researchers said it was one of the most deliberate, tender things they had ever witnessed in the field, the eagle guiding her chick upward, step by precarious step, holding it with her talons when it slipped, blocking the wind with her body when the gusts hit. By the time the sun began its shallow Arctic descent, the chick was back in the nest, fed, warmed, alive. The fox found its own meal that evening 2 valleys over. The lynx was spotted the following morning hunting rabbit trails deeper in the forest, unbothered as if nothing had happened at all. And Kodiak took her position above the nest again at first light, circling, watching, her extraordinary eyes scanning every inch of the snowfield below. Some things in this world are simply not available to take. Some things are protected by a force that has no language, no law, no reason, only the absolute certainty that it will not move, that it will not yield, that it will stand over what it loves in the open cold and scream at whatever comes for as long as it needs to. That morning on the Alaskan snowfield, the fox and the lynx both learned that lesson. Justice did not arrive with fanfare. It arrived on wings, at 90 miles per hour, with talons forward and not a single moment of doubt. If this story hit you the way it hit us, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more stories like this reach the people who need to see them. And if you want to be here every time we find moments like this one, raw, real, extraordinary moments from the wild world that most people never get to witness, subscribe and turn on notifications. We are out here finding them, and we are not done yet.